This next poem is called The Rescue Will Not Take Place, and it comes from the collection By and Large by Chris Wallace-Crabbe. This poem is, again, one of the contemplative poems that Chris Wallace-Crabbe has written and that we look at, much akin to the thing itself, in that it's a poem about belief and one that is trying to understand the meaning of it all, trying to find the thing itself. The title, The Rescue Will Not Take Place, actually comes from a line by another great Australian poet, A.D. Hope. So he's appropriated it as the title of this particular poem. The tone of the title itself is not particularly hopeful. The rescue will not take place. So it sort of establishes the trajectory of the poem itself before readers even delve into the lines. And structurally, it begins with this half line just sitting all on its own. What do we live for? This interrogative question, it's that big ideological question that often gets asked. Often something which is addressed in the study of religion, but something which Wallace-Crabbe as a poet also explores quite a bit in several of his poems. What's really evident in this poem, particularly by the fact that it starts with a question, is that there is a real sense of vulnerability about this poem. It's one which is unsure of itself and unsure of everything that's going on, and it's quite evident. It's a short poem, and so it doesn't really explore this uncertainty in great detail, but it's very clearly there in the structure, but also in the content. So if we start, what do we live for? We sort of know but can't put a name to the something which is slipping away beneath us more, or maybe less, all the time. Like a dream which won't disclose what it's deeply all about, but permeates a ripe summer day with its pauses and precedents. Date, folder, room, and wrongly anticipated time in a shifting perspective for what I was meaning to do. Now, some of the lines that we see here in this first phrase are very weak endings that are being used, captures sort of the rambling nature of the opening, but also the uncertainty that's going on. So it's quite rambling, quite convoluted, and quite unsure. And that's all sort of captured here in this opening. And I guess comes back to the confusion that he feels with that opening line. What do we live for? It's very, very hard to ascertain such a thing. Was it the dream or just my living? And why did life slidingly refuse to provide an answer? And just what did the dream component slot into that day other than downright subversively? A Wednesday, then, sun-beatenly soft and otherwise erotic as peaches or Indian turtle doves, yet interwoven by this undercurrent of muddlement, unravelling which I could not ravel. The answer being there is plainly no solution after all to our lives, yet we eke them out warmly, ardently, asking the painter to brush over heaven, give them what God was, and call it art. So the questioning nature of what is the meaning of it all continues all the way throughout the latter section of the poem. And we can see this part is quite beautiful in the imagery it's trying to evoke. So in amongst the beauty of the world itself, there's also this uncertainty that he's trying to pinpoint in his writing. But in trying to capture that uncertainty, the writing itself becomes very, very confused. And so as readers, tackle the poem and try to find meaning in it, the fact that it is so hard to find meaning in the poem itself is, I guess, a way of the author trying to replicate how it's so hard to find meaning in life. And in that, this poem does sit alongside others, such as the thing itself, and really trying to contemplate those big existential questions about what's the point of it all, what's the meaning of life. He has this line, unravelling that which I could not ravel. The contradiction there highlights his confusion, highlights the uncertainty. The ending of this is such a really sort of a significant shift in the way he's thinking. We have, again, these really contemplative moments of silence that appear right towards the end before these last two lines, asking the painter to brush over heaven, give them what God was and call it art. So he concludes by coming back to something that I mentioned earlier, the fact that this greater meaning is often sought in religion in many cultures around the world. So he concludes by turning back to that idea, turning towards broader humanities, use of religion or reliance of religion to provide meaning for everything, which for many provides that comfort in otherwise what would be very confusing and very uncertain. And Wallace-Crabbe often plays with that idea of religion as somebody who is consistently looking at how religion plays a part in everyday life. It's no surprise that this comes back in his poem about the broader meaning of it all, because it is that crutch that is often used by many in society when contemplating these big ideas, that are sometimes so overwhelming that there is no way to, as he says, unravel that which I could not ravel, or the other way around if you want to be looking at how to make sense of everything. So this is a very brief poem. The rescue will not take place. It is quite contemplative. It is very uncertain. The title doesn't lend itself to being something which he has defined or which he has been able to find meaning in. But an interesting poem and a counterpart to some of the others that are about this broader existential question that he looks at. So The Rescue Will Not Take Place by Chris Wallace-Crabbe.